The music that kills. What's wrong with the devil's tritone? Introduction. The sound of fear. There are sounds that soothe, sounds that inspire, and then there are sounds that disturb. Throughout history, few musical intervals have garnered as much fear and fascination as the devil's tritone, also known as the diabolus in musica, Latin for the devil in music. This peculiar sequence of notes has been blamed for everything from mental distress to spiritual corruption and even death. In this deep dive, we'll explore the myth, the science, the history, and the modern obsession with a musical interval so dissonant it was once considered cursed. The legend of the tritone goes beyond music theory. It touches on human psychology, theology, and even conspiracy. Why would a specific sound cause such a strong reaction in people? Can a tone truly alter one's mental state? Or is the fear of the tritone more about what we project onto it than the sound itself? These questions open a gateway into a strange world where art, fear, and myth intersect. Chapter 1. The Birth of a Curse. The tritone, an interval spanning 3 whole tones, sits uncomfortably between the perfect fourth and perfect fifth in the diatonic scale. In medieval times, this dissonant gap was considered so unstable and eerie that it was banned from church music. Composers and theorists feared its disharmony, associating it with the devil himself. Monks avoided it. Priests warned against it. Yet the question remains, why? Why would a mere combination of notes provoke such intense reactions? Part of the answer lies in the symbolic thinking of the era. Music was seen as a reflection of cosmic order. Every interval had spiritual significance. The tritone, by clashing against harmonious expectations, was viewed as a disruption of divine balance. Its very existence suggested chaos, instability, and heresy. It was, quite literally, an audio anomaly in a world obsessed with order. Chapter 2. The Forbidden Sound in History. To understand the fear, we must explore the medieval mind. The Catholic Church, with its deep belief in the spiritual power of sound, enforced strict guidelines on liturgical music. Harmony was not merely an aesthetic preference, it was a moral one. The tritone disrupted the divine order of music and was thus seen as spiritually dangerous. Some early accounts even claimed that the interval could summon demonic forces or incite madness. There were treatises written against it, musical theorists warning that its presence could open the door to temptation. In this context, composers carefully navigated around the interval, often restructuring melodies to avoid falling into its snare. The fear became so pervasive that even secular music of the time bore its stigma. It was the musical equivalent of a cursed relic, best left untouched. Chapter 3. Sonic Anatomy. What makes the tritone so unsettling? Psychoacoustically, the tritone contains frequencies that clash in the human ear. It creates a sense of tension and unease. Neurologically, it activates brain regions linked to fear and surprise. Our minds interpret the dissonance as a signal of something being wrong or out of place, not unlike the uncanny valley in visual aesthetics. The interval sits at a point of maximum instability in tonal music. Unlike other intervals that resolve into consonance, the tritone hangs in limbo, begging for resolution, but offering none. This tension resonates deeply with our psychological need for closure. The longer it lingers, the more disturbing it becomes. Some theories suggest this triggers a mild form of cognitive dissonance as the brain struggles to make sense of the unresolved clash. Chapter 4. Legends and Lethal Music. Over the centuries, stories have emerged of compositions that allegedly led to tragedy. Tales of fainting listeners, cursed composers, and even suicide-inducing melodies often feature the tritone as a central element. One infamous legend is that of a lost Gregorian chant, said to invoke hallucinations and despair in those who hear it. While concrete evidence is lacking, the myth persists. These legends often merge with broader folklore about forbidden knowledge and cursed art. The idea that music could possess dark power mirrors ancient beliefs in incantations and summoning rituals. The tritone becomes a stand-in for the forbidden word or the demonic sigil, something that, when uttered, opens doors that should remain closed. Even today, obscure forums circulate rumors about lost tapes and secret compositions said to drive people mad. Chapter 5. Modern Echoes in Pop Culture. In modern cinema and music, the tritone is often used to signal horror or evil. From horror movie scores to heavy metal, this interval has become a trope, a kind of musical shorthand for darkness. Bands like Black Sabbath and Slayer have leaned into the interval's menacing aura, while composers like Hans Zimmer employ it in soundtracks to unnerve audiences. The rise of horror film sound design has cemented the tritone's place in the collective unconscious. It appears in the scores of films like The Exorcist, The Shining, and Hereditary, used to provoke dread and suspense. Its presence in metal music, too, reflects a kind of cultural reclamation, embracing the taboo to defy societal norms. In this way, the tritone has shifted from a source of fear to a badge of rebellion. Chapter 6. The Science of Harm and the Myth of Death. Can music actually kill? Scientific studies suggest that while sound can influence mood and even induce physical reactions, lethal effects are improbable without extreme volume or specific frequencies beyond the range of the tritone. However, psychological vulnerability combined with suggestive music could, in theory, trigger harmful behavior. The tritone may not kill, but it can certainly disturb. Experiments in sonic warfare have explored the use of infrasound and high-frequency tones to disorient or panic individuals. While not directly related to the tritone, these studies show how sound can indeed have a physical impact. Combined with cultural conditioning, a sound perceived as cursed or harmful could intensify psychological distress. The myth of lethal music is likely symbolic, but its effects are nonetheless real for those who believe. Chapter 7. Censorship, Control, and the Politics of Sound. The banning of the tritone wasn't just about harmony, it was about control. By regulating music, the church and later institutions could control emotional and spiritual responses. This idea extends into modern times, where certain music genres are censored or restricted due to perceived moral dangers. The tritone stands as a symbol of sonic rebellion. In some regimes, music itself has been weaponized or outlawed for its perceived threat to authority. From punk rock to protest songs, certain musical elements are seen as destabilizing forces. The tritone's historical suppression parallels these efforts to limit expression. Its story is not just about acoustics, it's about who decides what can be heard. Chapter 8. The tritone in other cultures. Western music demonized the tritone, but what about other musical traditions? In Eastern scales and some folk music traditions, similar intervals appear without the same stigma. This raises the question, is the tritone inherently evil, or is its fear rooted in cultural context? Indian classical music, for example, uses microtones and dissonant intervals in ways that are deeply expressive and spiritual. In gamelan music from Indonesia, what Westerners might interpret as off-key is instead part of a larger harmonic philosophy. The discomfort associated with the tritone may be more a matter of cultural conditioning than an absolute auditory truth. Chapter 9. The Digital Resurrection of the Devil's Tone. With the rise of AI-generated music and dark ambient genres, the tritone is finding new life in the digital age. Experimental artists now use the interval in sound installations meant to provoke fear, anxiety, or even transcendental experiences. The occult allure of the tone persists, now powered by algorithms and global distribution. Virtual reality environments and sound-based horror games increasingly rely on the psychological impact of dissonant intervals. AI models trained on thousands of hours of horror soundtracks often discover the tritone as a tool of emotional manipulation. It has become a code, a programmable fear trigger. In this way, the ancient interval of doom has become a tool of the future. Chapter 10. Final Notes on a Forbidden Frequency. The tritone remains one of the most fascinating phenomena in music theory. Whether seen as a cursed interval, a misunderstood sound, or a powerful emotional tool, its impact is undeniable. The myth of the music that kills endures, not because it is literally lethal, but because it taps into a deep, primal fear of the unknown. Its persistence in music, myth, and media speaks to something fundamental in the human psyche. The tritone reminds us that not all discomfort is to be avoided. Sometimes it is the very thing that gives art its edge. In embracing the dissonant, we confront the shadow within ourselves. And perhaps, in the end, that's what the devil's tritone is really about. Not external evil, but our own unresolved tension.